Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for inviting me, and thank you for the organizers to arranging such an event. I believe this is clearly needed in Estonia, as the nuclear discussion about the nuclear energy and dispatchable energy is quite actively ongoing in Estonia, and I gladly used the opportunity to present my views about the necessity of new generation in Estonia, and then especially necessity of dispatchable generation, which nuclear clearly is. My name is Timo Tatar. I'm coming from Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, and my title is Deputy Secretary General for Energy and Mineral Resources. But first of all, let's start with some objectives of Estonian energy policy, where we are heading, where we are right now. So clearly, like every other EU state, Estonia also has set itself a target to reach climate neutrality by 2050. And clearly for us, the midway target is 2030, where we intend clearly to increase our share of renewable energy and also increase energy efficiency. And of course, while doing that, while guiding society through a green transition or energy transition, we keep our focus on energy security and security of supply as well. So our intention is to make the energy transition in Estonia in a way that the energy security and security of supply is not jeopardized. Clearly, this is a challenge, but I'm sure that we are going to manage that. So where we are right now, actually, this slide compiles together different statistics from Eurostat about Estonia, about the Estonian energy policy, and the focus here is how we are doing on renewable energy. And I'm glad to say that we are advancing quite well, clearly in different sectors with different pace. Overall, the picture is quite satisfactory. When we look Estonian share of renewable energy, then among EU member states, we are on a 4th position. So I don't know, many people don't know that, but actually the position is quite good. 38% of Estonian energy consumed in Estonia comes already from renewable sources. In this statistics or in this graph, actually, we are on 8th position, and the reason behind that is that there is this marvelous system of statistical transfers in Europe, where different member states, while trying to reach their targets which EU has set to them, they have a opportunity to buy and sell the statistics. So the countries who are exceeding their renewable targets can sell the surplus to the countries who are, not that well advanced, and this is taken into account in this statistics. So actually we are doing better than in Eurostat, and the reason behind that is that some of our statistics is hidden in the numbers of Luxembourg, hidden in numbers of Ireland, and hidden behind the numbers of Malta. So quite a marvelous system, but as long as we are on a seller's side earning money from that, then we are gladly offering that opportunity and using the money to accelerate the green transition. Where we are, I think, quite advanced is the heating and cooling, where Estonia is number 2 among EU member states, meaning that almost 60% of our heating needs comes already from renewable sources. We are quite advanced also with transport, where we are on a 5th position, and where we are still lagging behind and would like to see an acceleration is the share of renewables in electricity sector, where we are unfortunately right now on 15th position, and clearly we would like to improve that position in coming years. and obviously, when Estonian energy system is going through a transition, then this reflects also in the numbers of our CO2 emissions, reduction of CO2 emissions, which actually have been the largest among EU member states, both since 1990 and both from 2005 levels. So clearly, since 1990, the Estonia in 1990 was something else than it is today. Compared to that level, the CO2 emissions have reduced 72%. But I guess more importantly, since we joined the EU in 2004, again, our emissions have decreased by 40%, and I believe there aren't many countries who have a similar track record, maybe Denmark. And what has brought us here? Clearly, so far, Estonian government has set up quite a stable and long-term policies towards increasing renewable energy and phasing out fossil fuels in different sectors, heating, electricity, and transport. I already mentioned in some sectors we are more successful than others. So heating, yeah, I think it is a success story. There are clearly also measures to incentivize renewables in transport and enhancing energy efficiency in apartment buildings, for instance. And clearly also the success story has been merging our markets. Our electricity market is now fully merged with Nordic countries. We are in the same system. And clearly when it comes to CO2 emissions, then the largest effect has been from EU emission trading system. So simply the CO2 emissions have come more expensive, meaning that our fossil power plants are less competitive in markets. But clearly, as long as Estonian electricity sector has a share of fossils in that, then obviously, as soon as the CO2 prices are going up, as soon as the gas prices are going up, then there is no other way than the electricity prices follow. So. And this is what we have seen this winter. We have seen CO2 prices increasing twofold or threefold. We have seen gas prices skyrocketing, and clearly the electricity markets react. Electricity spot prices have gone up as well. And where this puts Estonia in the situation. First of all, Estonia has right now enough capacities to cover its peak demand, but clearly the price of doing that is very expensive. So just two examples from this winter, when the electricity market price was really high, skyrocketing 400 euros per megawatt hour. Guess what? Estonia was an electricity exporting country. But when the price was 90 euros per megawatt hour, Estonian own generation covered nearly half of our demand. So we were energy or electricity importing country. And clearly for a energy policy guy as me, the challenge is how to change that, how to become or reach to the system where in normal conditions Estonia is, well, electricity exporting country. And in some extreme cases, the situation is vice versa, that we need to buy electricity from neighboring countries to have the ends meet. So that's the challenge. We are right now covering our peak demand, but with really high price tag. And the reason for that clearly is the CO2 price in our case, but also a lack of more affordable generation capacities. And what are the ways how to reach more competitive prices? So, for Estonia, it's quite simple. The formula is quite simple. So we have to have more supply of affordable generation in our system, in our price area, basically in Estonia, or then build more and more interconnection to the systems where those affordable generation capacities are existing. So we have already quite strong connections to Finland, so we have 1,000 megawatts. So of course we can build another 500 megawatts, and most likely we will get the same prices that there are in Finland. But clearly, then our security supply is even more interlinked with other countries. And so if you would ask me, then clearly our focus right now is the number one, to have more supply of affordable generation in Estonia. And how we can do it? Clearly, for Estonia, this low-hanging fruit is more wind. So as the more wind generation we are having in the system, the more we are having hours when the electricity prices are really competitive. So again, an example from last winter, where within 24 hours, there was hours where there was zero wind practically, and there were hours where practically all Estonian wind generation was working. And this clearly reflects also the power prices. As you can see, as soon as there is enough wind, clearly the prices are competitive. But of course, this is not the silver bullet. Wind is not blowing 24/7. There are also sort of hours which we have to cover with other sources, which has to be dispatchable. But right now we are working to sort of jumpstart the wind, to have this potential energy source available, that the investments which have been lagging behind because of different reasons, they are restarting. The biggest reason there has been sort of restrictions coming from Defense Ministry, saying that every new wind farm affects their visibility, how they can see their radars. Luckily, this issue is going to be solved within 2 years. All the agreements have been signed, and in 2024-25, large territory of Estonia will be open for wind farms. There will be also a renewable energy auctions to kickstart the new investments. Just last week, a maritime special planning was approved by the government. There is an initiative how we can tackle the NIMBY effect. There will be a mechanism how the wind farms will contribute to Estonian to the local communities and households. So there are a lot of activities there to kickstart that. I'm fairly confident that in a couple of years we will see a lot of new wind farms in Estonia. But as I said, clearly we can't rely only on intermediate generation. There has to be something else. The question constantly asked is, are there enough dispatchable power generation power plants? The European DSOs, as well as the Baltic DSOs, as well as the Nordic DSOs, are constantly analyzing whether there are enough dispatchable power plants in the region under different scenarios. And they are ready to react, to initiate, if needed, also measures to have new power plants on the market. So far, the analysis is showing that until 2030, there are enough power plants, dispatchable power plants in the region, but clearly the situation is deteriorating. So with every year, there is less and less dispatchable power plants. We need a replacement for those old aging power plants in the region as well as in Estonia. That is pretty clear. This is what the analysis of the DSOs are showing. Clearly, the first preference here, Estonia is a very market-orientated country, so clearly the first preference here is that the market sees a need for new power plants. Investors have the confidence and they make the investment decisions on their behalf. Clearly, if that is not happening, then country is ready to launch also a capacity mechanisms, or most likely in our case, strategic reserve. But this is a last reserve. First of all, we would like to give a chance of market participants to make their market or the investment decisions. But the message here is indeed clearly the need for dispatchable capacities is clear, it is imminent, and it is, it's clear that the situation beyond 2030, we can't rely on the power plants we are relying on today. Reaching to a conclusions, clearly for Estonian energy sector, more renewable energy, more energy efficiency more storage seems to be a no-regret scenario. So whatever is the scenario, whether there is a nuclear or new gas or what else, in every scenario, this is the low-hanging fruit which we have to tackle. And the other conclusion is that the need for new dispatchable power generation is also quite clear. The need remains, most likely even increases. And now focusing more on nuclear, then our view is that nuclear plays very nicely together with other solutions. We have a nice example from Finland, where at the same time, we have thousands of megawatts of new wind farms coming online every year. And guess what? Also a new nuclear power plants are being built, and those investments are made purely on market terms. So if this works in Finland, then I don't see a reason why it shouldn't work also in Estonia. 80 kilometers north, same market, well interconnected, the same mindset. So, and of course, a good example from Finland. And to assess whether nuclear option indeed is an option for Estonia, then Estonian government has initiated a nuclear working group, which my colleague Reelika will explain a bit more in detail earlier. But in practice, we are following the IAEA decision-making process, which is proposed to a countries who have sort of zero experience with nuclear energy, but they would like to assess and learn whether this is something which could play a role also in the future energy mix of the country. This is exactly what we are doing. I think we are maybe 1/3 of the course through right now. The analyses are being made, discussions are being held, and most likely by 24 or maybe late 23, we are end of this process, and then it's time when we present the outcome to the politicians, to the society, and then it's time when the decisions can be made, fact-based decisions. And clearly then the realistic time horizon for Estonia is 10 to 15 years when such power plant can really happen. I end with that. If there are any questions, happy to answer. Yeah. Thanks.
And Peter. Okay, I wanted to secure a question time just after the three presentations. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much.